Christmas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Box, the exciting show where we open a box and decide if the box rocks or if it's a box full of rocks.
I don't know if this is going to be a good episode.
This pillow is fucking useless shirt.
Yeah.
Sometimes in life you have to make a choice. Sometimes in life you have to find your voice. Sometimes in life you need your
welcome back to a brand new edition about Ramble On About Movies. Proud to be part of the Pajunkin Network. We are live here on YouTube, and if you're listening to the podcast, thank you. Let's give your ears a treat and your eyes something to enjoy for the next hour and a half, 2 hours. Who knows? Things can get crazy. You never know.
You have a lot of energy. It's been a while since we've done this, so I think you just had a little...
It's all been stored.
Yeah. Across the internet, that's clever Eric Muller on the other side of the screen.
And across the internet for me is, as always, is handsome Dan Nye.
And it's just kind of funny because I'm thinking as we're going through all that big shenanigans like we normally do, I'm like, man, you know, we time our releases or we time the schedule for the show where it's whatever time it may be. And it's like, you know, it's like waiting through the previews or the titles before the movie actually gets going. Mm-hmm. So it's like, even if you're a few minutes late, it's fine. It's not too big a deal. We're still going to be here. We're still going to be talking stuff. So yeah,
I know. I was also noticing during our song, at least our portion of it, is like all the different shirts that I don't have anymore. I'm like, man,
I kind of thought about that as well, to where it was like, like which ones survived my move, which ones didn't. So it's like I'm not exactly sure which ones I still have, which is kind of amusing too, because I was just there's so much to unpack even in our intro alone, which makes me really happy. And I, again, for your audio listeners, there are videos attached to both of those. So if you see us on YouTube or even on the Facebook restreams, like there's fun stuff. Chris Clark, shout out to him for being the best post guy in the biz, who put together both of the edits of those videos, and then to David Biscuits for doing the song for the Pajunkin. And I think he's credited as Lone Pine Mall, but our good friend Brad, who did most of the music, and then Joe Sabo and I helped out a little bit on our theme, because we shout them out occasionally, but it's never, too
we always
much.
shout them out in our hearts.
Yes, every time we hear that, I'm like, oh, it was Brad's birthday recently too, so happy belated, right. Brad.
Happy belated.
And we're recording, speaking of the Pajunkin, happy birthday to Maxwell.
Yay.
It's his proper birthday today. They are all, if you follow them on social media, they're all celebrating at Disney World, him and Amber and PJ, the namesake of this network. Yeah. So that's the third thing my Twitter stream is all about. That's today. True. Yeah. And speaking of those things, we'll do a little bit of house cleaning, and we have some catching up to do because we actually haven't recorded in a long time. Today is the very first commemorating of the national holiday of Juneteenth.
Yep.
June 19th, you finally get the news of freedom to the enslaved Black people of Galveston, Texas, which was 2 months after the Confederacy had surrendered, 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. So that's just the tiny, tiny, tiny thing. I want to do a little baby soapbox because I've heard from other friends and other creators, right? Yeah, baby soapbox. Like, and I'm wearing a Black Lives Matter shirt too. We try not to go too deeply political. If you follow either of us on social media, though, you know our views, you know where we stand. But I do want to say one thing that I've seen go over and over again, and actually that was really well. I haven't even asked if you've seen this, but was really well executed in Bo Burnham's new special, Inside. We're two white guys on the internet. He's a white creator on the internet and all over the place. Like, if you want to learn about these things, don't ask your black friends. Just go get educated on your own. There's like limitless resources that you can really like find, even just online. So this is a good example. I'm really happy we're going to have this as a national holiday going forward. It's the first new one since Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
And this is just the first step. Don't think just like, oh, we got this. We still got a long way to go.
We don't want to do like, oh, hey, this will keep everybody happy for another 30, 40, 50 years. Like, no. And that's the other thing. I'm glad you brought that up, because if anyone here is like, they want to be doing more, or I want to tell you, it's okay to be uncomfortable by a lot of these things. If you're uncomfortable, that means there's going to be growth and you're going to be learning from these experiences. So it's
also okay to admit you don't know.
Yeah, that's fine too. I didn't learn about that in school. Did you?
No, I didn't learn. I went to college as a history major, and I didn't learn about Juneteenth until like my senior year.
So it's such a tragedy just where we're going, and this is why we're talking these things early, because it's like that's like primarily not what we're here for. That's not our typical show, but we do,
this is a historic moment. We want to at least acknowledge the history of it.
We don't want to do an entire show on the day and then be like, oh, by the way,
also you don't need to hear from us. You don't.
No, that's the other thing. This is not a moment for us. Like, white guys, they've been okay through history. Like
we've had a good run.
We've had a good run, and there are some terrible people and terrible things to a lot of historical figures. So like, our mantra is gonna be better. We're gonna be better than that generation and be more inclusive and be more aware. And that's the awareness is where everything starts, and then you move into action. So we've gotten some awareness down. We're hoping to move to some action.
That's right.
You do have any thoughts? Anything you want to throw out about today?
Yeah, I think we've already
kind of covered it. Okay.
Yeah, I think we've done good. We done good.
What up, Ferris?
Hey, Ferris.
Funny that Ferris is here, because we're actually I need to say it's more I have a lot of crew stuff going on, because it is pivoting slightly in more personal news. It's the
third thing on both our Twitter feeds.
The other thing on both our Twitter feeds. It is the last day of it's now the historic Crew Stadium. It was initially Crew Stadium, then it had a Mafre as a sponsor, which is a Canadian insurance company, and now it's historic Crew Stadium. The very last we both have friends who are out tailgating today. In about 3 hours or so, there's going to be a kickoff of the last ever professional MLS game there. Who knows if they'll wind up? I don't think they'll wind up using it for anything else, because it's being turned into the Crew's training center. But the new stadium is going to be ratified, and the first kickoff is 2 weeks from today. So there's a lot going on there. And it's funny because I said a little bit on Twitter, like I have some FOMO going on, but then it's like, oh, it's not until now that I'm actually talking about it, it's like, oh, I'm not going to be there, and that's sad. And which I can't be. There was a scenario.
Cue the sad music from the Incredible Hulk.
Tying into stories later. Look at you being a good host. I like the slow moving out of frame too.
Hey, we didn't get to do this when we were live together in a live kitchen.
That's true. We didn't. It's afforded us a little bit of ingenuity in it being easier for us being around. That there's me was like what's post? We're just gonna be done, and then I'm gonna like throw it up online.
One take, Tony.
Yeah. What was I gonna say about the Crew though? There was a scenario where if things had like progressed a little quicker with COVID, that I would have tried to make it back for the new stadium opening, and the timing didn't work out, and it didn't make any sense. So sad about that, but it's still like there's lots of historic things happening right now. So
that's right. If you want, Dan, I can do a nice video montage set to "Good Riddance, Time of Your Life" by Green Day, the Crew last game today.
So all of our every high school dance that you and I both went to, because that was always the song they ended with.
I think that was my prom theme.
Oh God, of course it was. That had to.
Oh no, it was Richard Marx. That's what mine was.
Oh.
Right here, waiting for
right
you.
here, waiting for you. Also, a great follow on Twitter. Richard Marx.
Oh yeah, he is good.
Oh yeah, he's a lot of fun. So what have you been up to? How are things been in the last month or so? I know we won't get into too personal stuff, but like, you seen anything new lately and exciting?
It's been another turning point, a fork stuck in the road. Time grabs you by the wrist.
God damn it! God damn it!
No, let's see. Well, for everyone who follows the Bajunkin, I was on the Sunday Online last week where we talked about In the Heights, Corilla, which I both saw. I enjoyed both of them. And just last night, I watched Luca on Disney Plus.
Oh, I haven't. Okay, good to know that's out. So I haven't watched Cruella yet. I did watch In the Heights. And I recently watched, I would recommend to you and anyone else listening, Wish Dragon on Netflix.
Yep, John chose the dragon.
It was a lot of fun. And Constance Wu, I think, was a mom. I didn't recognize the two leads, but it is a very, very well done movie. The story is a little familiar, but like the cultural aspects I really enjoyed. And I would put it like the style, it wasn't a Lord and Miller animated production, but it felt very much like them. So like very quippy, lots of jokes. So, but it was really fun, really entertaining.
Yeah, and Luca is like Pixar's love letter to Italy, and it's also the the movies we used to go to when we were kids, where kids actually got to be kids, get to go out and explore, and it's them coming up with adventures, and it's like it'd be someone reminiscing about the old days kind of story.
Back in my day.
Well, you remember how like Christmas Story is like Gene Shepard's like recollection of his Christmas when he was a child. It's kind of story like that. But
Sure.
It just happens. Kids are mermans.
Is it a Disney animation or is it a Pixar?
Pixar.
It is a Pixar. Okay.
Yep.
Well, then next time my wife and I have a night off, then that's probably something we'll do, because that's not a premiere. That's a just normal.
Yep, that's free. Yep, normal drop.
Gotcha. Because I've gone back and forth where it's like I know I'm not the target audience for Cruella, but I'm like, do I want to watch it? Do I not?
Neither was I, but Maxwell and Amber did a really good job convincing me to try it out. So on my birthday, I was like, yeah, why not? I'm not going to the theater. Might as well just watch it here at home. And I had a great time with it. I think your wife would really enjoy it.
She probably would, because it was one of those things like in that breath. We hadn't watched it, and we watched the live action Mulan not that long ago too. So there's definitely room for both. Hey, Brandy, are you traveling? What are you doing?
Yeah, aren't you in Florida, Brandy?
I think she might be there soon, but I was going to say there's other. I mean, clearly, if she's watching,
maybe she's watching on the plane.
Maybe. I mean, then enjoy
flying the plane.
That's a
Brandy
lot happening.
Can do anything.
I'm aware, but that's a lot to process for us. So I suppose anything else you need to catch up on? Anything new and exciting?
Nah.
Gotcha. My new job's working out really well. Happy about that. That's been one of the things adjusting to that, which is why our schedule got pushed a little bit, but not bad. So now I have to do, other professional things and get caught up with those.
I was going to say, I've had the same boring job for a while now.
Right.
Of course, it was because of Juneteenth being a federal holiday. That means yesterday I had the day off, but
nice.
But word didn't get out about that until 7:00 on Thursday.
Well, at least you found out eventually. So you're in Florida and you're.
So she must have just arrived.
You must have just got. All right. Maybe you have that like YouTube, the whatchamacallit, the YouTube Premium, where you can actually like shut off your phone and it'll keep playing YouTube videos. So maybe she's just listening to us while waiting for people. Who knows? It's all.
I don't know. We could ask her, how many fingers am I holding up?
We could. So what we're gonna start into the show about our fun little movie news, where we're just gonna hop all over the place. But we're
gonna finally discuss the movies and ramble on about movies.
I mean, we're rambling on about things. I mean, there's a reason it's not movies which we ramble on about, which may be more grammatically correct, but it's definitely not the order of operations that this show. It was such a great. You went full Scrubs, and I was here for it. And Brandy says 4 fingers.
Yeah, good job.
All right. Well, she's actually watching. Well, thank you, Brandy.
Thank you, Brandy. You're the best.
Continuing to be the best fan. But there was something that went viral and set Twitter ablaze, and everyone had thoughts and opinions on it, including my intrepid co-host. And then the nuclear drop wound up being this photo, which of course we have to talk about.
Oh yeah, we got to talk about this.
So for those of you who are listening audio, I actually have to explain this now, which is going to be fun. Basically, there was a news release where the Harley Quinn show, which is HBO Max original and very much intended for adults, in season 3.
If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. I love it.
I have it on my list of things to do. Somewhere in the middle, because it's like, when you talk about it, it's like, oh, that's right, I have to do that, and then it's like, oh, keep going on living my life, get to it eventually, like a lot of other things on my to watch list. So it's basically the creators in season 3 wanted to have a scene like the one that is on our screen, and they said they wanted a scene
over here
that's being depicted to Eric's left and to the screen's right. And it was where Batman goes down on Catwoman. And DC came back and they said, that's not what heroes do. And I believe there was another quote in there about their intention was purely to sell toys. And this is what heroes do. So
it was, that's not what heroes do. And then when the writer, with the smart reply of, are you saying that Batman is a selfish lover? The DC exec said, no, we need to sell toys.
Yes. So I don't think what they're realizing is, well, we can get into that. Well, actually, no, we should get into that now before we hop ahead. I think that's interesting because what they're not realizing is like the era of people that are about your and I's age that grew up with this and that basically were, the whole toys when it was like Batman Returns got tied into McDonald's. And when that heyday happened, all those kids who were like 10, 11, 12 years old or even younger, or a little bit older, are all now adults. So your market isn't necessarily the same. It's different. I was going to say,
people our age are probably buying more like actual toys than kids are.
Oh, for sure.
Let's be honest. They don't play with toys. They either play with Legos or they have their whatever tablet, electronic device. That's what they do. They don't have like toys.
They're like hanging out on their iPads. They're not like, it's definitely different than how things used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting doing that. And then we'll get into Eric's list a little bit later on, because it was spurred by a conversation we were having in the podcast chat. But then Zack Snyder decided to weigh in as well. And he decided.
Did he ever?
He decided, yeah. So right over here to our left, you can see Zack Snyder puts out a thing that says Canon, where Batman is clearly pleasuring Catwoman.
Clearly.
It is somehow a very adult photo while not showing anything. So, kudos to you, Zack Snyder, for having a picture that you can kind of show anywhere. But B, I want to just...
Is that a Zack Snyder original, or did I get that commissioned somewhere?
That was one of my questions. My other one was I'm aware of how much creative control he had previously.
Mm-hmm.
But is he saying that this is canon because it was already existing in a comic, or is he declaring it canon?
I think he is declaring it canon. He's using his clout, if you will. He's waving around his dick here to be like, look, I'm Zack Snyder here. Boom. This is canon. Which, good for him if he's using his power to do this.
I mean, I'm just curious. And it really, a lot of people who were at least apprehensive about giving Zack Snyder credit, or apprehensive, even us, like there's a lot loaded in that Snyder cut. Like we can at least respect that he's with it, like on the cultural touchstones on the conversation enough to be like, yeah, you should definitely be saying this is canon, because this is what at least his interpretation of what Batman would do.
Right.
So, so good for you, Zack Snyder, I think is where we are. And like, I saw a whole bunch of people like questioning and be like, does this mean I'm a Zack Snyder fan now?
Is Zack Snyder somehow pushing a feminist agenda here? Good on him.
Sure.
I'm sure there's someone having that conversation somewhere. Zack Snyder, ultimate feminist.
Maybe those people didn't see Sucker Punch. So, I mean, I have questions.
It's one of these things. It's just one of these things where it's like all that exec had to say was either Batman is associated with kids. We don't just want that out there. Or, just say, hey, we don't want to see this. Instead of, no, heroes don't do that. Like,
yeah,
you picked the wrong thing to say for the right reasons. I understand you're trying to protect this billion-dollar icon that you want to make appeal to everyone. Because people are going to freak out if something like that did get out. Like, my 5-year-old boy watched this video of Batman going down on Catwoman. I'm just like, Jesus, what's going on? Roll, Ty, roll.
Sorry, that was a really deep cut you decided to throw in the end there. That okay, now we know where your caricature that character was coming from,
right?
Literally, at least what State in the Union. But
Marcus Federer,
yeah. Oh, hey, relevant. But as far as like the actual, like the executives point, like I understand wanting to protect the property, but it also there's a part of that's really tone deaf and that's not understanding where the character is now in 2021.
First off, clearly that executive was a male. That's just
yeah. I'm sure there was no female executive going, doesn't he?
Right. I just imagine like he's the male exec, he's got his, he's putting down his drink.
Cigar.
Like, heroes don't do that. And like a secretary in the background goes, yeah, I got that right.
No, his secretary would say yes. His wife would say no.
Oh yeah,
there it is. Now we're going into old stereotypes. So I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like I feel like there's a lot of outdated practices and a lot of we would talk about how sometimes you see executives and they're like not understanding necessarily where the characters are, and that's what I kind of fall back on to where
it's like I wonder, like, did they watch the first 2 seasons of Harley Quinn? Did they just not get the tone the show goes for?
We'll explain it since I haven't seen it. Like, what do you mean?
It's TVMA, so it's for adults, and it is riskier humor. It's violence,
risque,
but it is an R-rated Mary Tyler Moore show starring Harley Quinn instead of Mary Tyler Moore.
That's fun.
Kaylee Cuoco is fantastic in this. The entire cast is amazing. I love this show. Bane steals the show. When you watch it, once you get to a Bane episode, you will understand what I'm talking about. But it's just such a creative way to use these characters.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's one of those things where it's like, again, it's probably some executives just like, well, it's Batman. It's Warner Brothers Animation. Let's just see what they're doing. They're probably thinking, it's like Batman the animated series. It's clear to someone who didn't get what the show was going for. Because again, that's the other thing. We don't know the joke. We know the setup. It's Batman going down on Catwoman, but we don't know what the punchline was going to be.
So that was actually supposed to be a joke. That could have been the punchline too.
Right. Exactly. We don't know what the setup was.
Well, okay, and this is the thing I wanted, because we talked about a similar R-rated animated DC property. Do you think this makes more or less sense than the Batman Batgirl sex scene in The Killing Joke?
Oh, that one doesn't make sense. Okay. That one was unnecessary because it literally adds nothing to the source material of The Killing Joke. If they're doing a completely separate story with Batwoman, because that's something the creators of the Batman animated series have been shipping for years. Mm-hmm. They've wanted that. Bruce Timm and all of them. That's what they wanted. But like they literally just forced it on there because like, this is what's going to make Batman really upset with the Joker is him shooting Barbara, not because of their years together fighting crime or the fact that he's been more like a second father to her this entire life. It's because they had sex once on top of a clock tower.
Oh boy! So what you're and given all that, you would definitely trust the creators of the Harley Quinn show to handle this with more grace and decorum.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Which is weird because if you watch the show, you're like, really?
So, slightly pivoting, the only previous Batman actor to weigh in that I've seen was Val Kilmer, who tweeted out a GIF that says, "Does he or doesn't he?" And it's a little GIF from Nicole Kidman in a very risque outfit walking around.
From Batman Forever. Yep.
And she says, "We could give it a try. I'll bring the wine." And if you know anything about that scene, it is, Schumacher went way hard on the hypersexualization, especially in that scene. So
a young Eric became a man that day.
I was gonna say, like, I remember there being, I mean, somewhat, she's wearing a cloak, but then there's definitely a moment where she goes, "You could bring your scarred psyche," I think is the exact line.
Right. Or it's like, "Do you want me to have skin tight vinyl and a whip?" This is for kids.
I know, right? Like, you think about, it's funny when you think about Returns being kind of dark, and then you think about how sexualized it gets in Batman Forever. Because you have that, and then you also have Tommy Lee Jones, who has 2 harems, one for each side of his personality, one played by Drew Barrymore.
Yeah. And actually, Val Kilmer was the second person who's portrayed Batman to weigh in on it.
Oh, who else weighed in?
Derek Beater. He voices Batman actually in the Harley Quinn series. He's also did some other animated work for Batman, and his quote was just, "Yeah, I do."
Oh, well, there you go. So we have at least some of the other two Batmans or so have weighed in.
Well, because that was the other thing, like the list that was going around where they're like breaking down the actors of rather yes or no, and one of them put Val Kilmer as a no. That is complete disrespect.
So let's transition, because you did an MCU heroes list, and I have a little. I just want to talk about some of these real quick. This is going to be most of our show. We're not even going to get to fucking news at this point, because we're just going to be talking about this because it's more fun and interesting.
News of the day of the week.
It was the biggest news of the week for sure. So even I want to say, so you did a thing. I've already retweeted it. You can find it pretty easily if you go on Eric's Twitter timeline. So you had Tony Stark and Iron Man as a hard yes.
Yes.
Because his ego will not allow him to be the greatest lover in the world. He knows the power of good press. The only reason I would say, because there's, especially you look at arcs for these people, I do in the beginning, I do not think so.
Well, that was something me and my wife. Most of these came from a lunchtime conversation with my wife. Me where we're discussing this, and it was like, no, his ego would not allow, even before he became Iron Man. His ego would not, because he wants that out there that he's the greatest lover, because he understands the value of good press. So would he do it? Heartbeat.
But that's the thing, is I think he's too in when we first find him, I think he's too caught up in his own world. I think he's very selfish to begin with. I think this is I would say parallels for him and Pepper versus Steve and Peggy, because I think it's both the same way that I push back. Everyone kept saying Steve Rogers was no. I think Steve Rogers became a yes, because you really think Peggy would be an unsatisfied lover? You think she would be okay with that as like as much of a strong-willed woman as she is? I'm saying by the end of his arc, when he's in his happy 50s home, he's trying out some shit. That's him
going back in time, and now that we have the Time Variance Agency in the MCU, like, do you want Steve going back to the 40s, doing that, and then her going to tell the rest of the girls at the club about it? That's when the agents would come out from the TV and go, "There's the variance." That's why you have that cameo of her.
No. I think Peggy has enough discretion. I don't think she's going to have a glow about her for a few weeks / months, but I think if she can hide the secret of a coming back from the future Captain America just to herself, I think she can hide the fact that she's also receiving oral pleasure from him.
I don't know. Also, again, I just think he's too old-fashioned.
I see. That's the thing, is he changed with that whole character arc. So that's why I think, like, I think he is, honor and duty bound. You know what I mean? Whereas Tony's doing it to prove for himself, where Steve is doing it literally for the pleasure of his lover.
Yeah, no, I get that. That was my moment, but I was like, I remember the time, and even how he was before he became Captain America. Like, he never got the chance to.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I feel like Bucky was more old fashioned than he was, especially since Steve was like such a scrawny little kid. Like, Steve would be the kid who would be fantasizing about taking care of his woman.
Yes,
is what I'm saying.
Well, also, as I put it in mine, I don't think Bucky's old-fashioned. Also, I mean, he's not mentally ready.
But Bucky's damaged. So we'll go through them. The other ones are kind of quick. Thor was just pretty much you went to a yes, and before he was no, before Jane.
Loki, like I said, he's a hard yes because he's probably the guy who invented it.
Yeah, and that is, he's, especially being gender fluid, he's going to know how to please many different people. Everyone, exactly. I like your Clint one too, where it was like he doesn't miss.
Yep, he does not miss.
Well, he also has a family, so
yeah,
they're clearly happy. They're very happy.
His wife, he kept paying for his wife's cell phone bill when she was gone for 5 years. So
I never thought about that. Oh, Hulk was a no. Bruce Banner.
well, because that thing, because remember this is MCU and it is established in the MCU. If his blood gets to go, if the blood pressure gets too high, he transforms into Hulk.
Sure. But there was, I mean, if you go really back and you say established in the MCU, then you have to think about Edward Norton theoretically being able to control it, even though that's kind of out the window for everything else, because that's how the first movie ends. But that's a little, I think your other reasoning was better, where it was like the two reasons where it's like, one, he's been a scientist for so long that he hasn't had time to dedicate to anything else. And then two, Hulk smash.
Right. Hulk smash.
And then Black Widow, you said it was necessary for undercover reasons.
Yep.
Okay. Nick Fury probably insists that a gun is pointed to his head while he's performing. That's kind of a funny one. Peter Quill, Star-Lord, hard. See, you say hard yes. I think it's interesting because you have to go. We'll ask the hard-hitting questions here at Ramble On. Can you perform cunnilingus on an alien?
Peter Quill's willing to find out.
So there's some gray area depending on like whether or not this alien actually has the same reproductive organs as a human. This is Kevin Smith ever hears this conversation, he's going to be really happy. But I think that's the only gray area there, because we only see him. I feel like we see a lot of these characters in the MCU kind of like start off in very different places, but then as they go, they kind of have like similar calming down arcs when they like settle down with their.
Well, again, we haven't had 3 for Guardians 3, so we don't know.
That's true. I like your Drax's one with the pure, everything. They're taking everything literal.
Yeah.
The joke was Drax, why are you on the knees on the ground? And he says, you asked me to lick your carpet.
Rib shot. Boom.
Boom. Groot. Hard yes. Groot is definitely the most sensitive lover in this thread. Groot is definitely a giving tree. Shout out Shel Silverstein. Doctor Stephen Strange, Doctor Strange, hard yes. I think this is like we talked about before, kind of the same thing as Tony, where it's like I think it's interesting to see how you compare, like, especially people who are legit egomaniacs, because before they become heroes, both Tony and Stephen Strange, legit egomaniacs.
Oh, like, absolutely.
They're only focused on aspirations and career, like literally nothing else.
Yeah, but he's got to save his hands for surgery.
True. You said Peter Parker Spider-Man. He is a teenager. Yes. Next. I think that may be a to be determined. Because if we're assuming Peter's a virgin, which I kind of think he is, maybe when things with MJ kind of escalate, I don't think you can say, I think you could say would like to, but I feel like.
Yeah, definitely. He's definitely would like to. And with MJ, she would ask.
Sure. And we already talked about Bucky. Bucky, you said no. I think Bucky's got a lot on his plate. I think there may have been an outside chance in Wakanda, because I think they kind of established that he might have had a relationship.
He might have gained some peace.
Yeah. Aha, I see what you did there. And then Black Panther, T'Challa. Yes, he may freeze up, but he's not going to say no. That's interesting, especially him being like kind of a very humble king.
Yes.
And not like he's not like an egomaniac like some of these other people we're talking about.
Correct.
And Scott Lang, Ant-Man was a yes. He'd be adorable because I feel like he's the most everyman hero we have.
He is, yeah.
And then Sam Wilson, Captain America, was a hard yes. Sam is a modern lover.
And I forgot to mention, he also listens to Marvin Gaye. Come on.
Yeah, that was his introduction. So that was, I'm trying to think, we haven't gone to, that was more or less everyone. We don't need to go into a lot of the Guardians. We don't really need to go into like Rocket or.
I got enough pushback for putting in Groot. I am not putting in Rocket.
How do you get pushback for putting in Groot? Hi, Mike. Or the Ramblin' Pajux. I'll take it. Pajux. All right, so
that would look really good across a hockey jersey.
It would, like, and it even sounds like it's a hockey name.
Yeah.
Let's do some quick fire ones. Everyone, I don't know Did you get this email? Because I got this email. I thought it was funny. So basically, there was an intern specifically blamed for the HBO Max email snafu that was like that. Basically, everyone got an email that said integration test email 1, and that's all it said. The weird part to me was I'm not an HBO Max subscriber. It's one of those things I've shared, and my brother-in-law pays for that one, and I'm paying for another one that he's using. So I thought it was funny. Like, I don't remember if I had to sign up for anything but I still got one. So that was funny.
Well, I mean, you know my job. I work in IT. So obviously I was looking from the IT security part, and I just looked at it. I was like, this is the worst phishing email I have ever seen.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. That was one of the things, like, I saw that and I'm like, I'm going to delete this because I don't trust it.
Right. I didn't even like open up the email. I just looked at the preview. I was like, what is this? Delete. And then to find out that some poor intern accidentally clicked a button, and HBO Max even put out on their Twitter that this was an intern's fault, which makes me believe one of two things. A, it wasn't an intern at all, and they're just fighting like, hey, we need a scapegoat. Let's just say it was the intern. And realization number 2, if you have an intern that is in charge of an emailing list that includes millions of people, don't call him an intern. You pay him.
There are such things as paid internships. I know that's been a big thing that, like,
well, that's the thing. Yeah, that it could have been a paid internship. I don't know that for sure, but if you're just saying, yeah, some intern, you're not paying them.
Yeah, you're looking for.
Or like I said, it's just an imaginary intern. Like, you know, oh, Steve the intern here up again.
Well, the other thing was either that or, like, I feel like there's also another scenario where it's like it also could have been a low, I'm going to say low key, but a low key, 2 words, testing marketing strategy, because they did it. And then at least for a few hours,
buzz. It did.
Yep.
We're talking about it.
Yeah. I mean, well, and a lot of people, pretty much everyone was talking about it. Also, the funniest response, a lot of people did Dear Intern things, but I want to highlight this one because it popped up in the article that I found, where it was a tweet, and you can kind of tell who the tweet was from by the time I get to the end of it. But it says, "Dear Intern, it gets better. Emoji heart. P.S. Don't wear a beret for a while, okay? Signed, Monica Lewinsky." Another genuinely amazing follow on Twitter. Like,
oh, she is so good.
She's so funny. She's so clever, and has really, like, she's made the best out of a bad situation.
She literally turned chicken salad out of chicken shit.
I've never heard that expression, but I do like it.
Oh, it's something we use in my department all the time.
Nice.
Is being able to, you know, when something bad happens, if you could turn that into chicken salad, good on you.
Right.
Yeah, I love the, like, renaissance of Monica Lewinsky. I think it all started with that John Oliver interview.
Yes, I think that as well. I remember seeing that and being very impressed and seeing.
Oh, I was so impressed when I heard that interview. Like, she is so intelligent, so charming. How? And then I look back at, like, all those jokes. I was like, oh my God, Jay Leno is an asshole. I understand it was of the time. Everyone was making jokes like that. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, but some weren't as that mean-spirited.
We are definitely in different times. And I'm going to transition to another short story where we talked about this, and it's similar to the MCU one, where I saw this in the article. The headline popped out at me, and it said, the headline of this article just said, Lou Ferrigno takes parentheses not so subtle shot at MCU. And basically he puts out a tweet with himself and the caption of, "Can't think of another superhero that isn't in costume or CGI. Worked damn hard on my diet and exercise for the Hulk. Wasn't going to let anyone down. The Hulk was my hero as a kid as well. Thumbs up." And then a hashtag Hulk series, OG Hulk, no CGI involved, diet and exercise, Lou Ferrigno, don't make me angry. And then just a picture of him. And then it's like, I read through the article and they're like, oh, it has nearly 3,000 likes and this is clearly a shot at the MCU. And I go, is it? Like,
right. I think it's more of a humble brag. Well, not really that
not even humble. It's just a brag.
Yeah, it's a brag. And look at Luke Ferrigno right now. He looks great for his age.
And that's why I was thinking that, where I'm like, why is they kind of created a narrative that's like, this is specifically, it wasn't like he was retweeting anything. It's not like he's being like, oh, look at how shit the MCU is and how much better it was in my day. Like, no.
It's not like Mickey Rourke when he went on his rant and rave about how good Law and Order SVU is as compared to the MCU.
That's right.
So it's Lou. I get Lou Ferrigno's point, but also you got to remember, look at the 70s technology and budgeting of a series in the 1970s versus the MCU.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you don't need, and that's the other thing I found really funny, where it's like, oh, it has nearly 3,000 likes, and I think I clicked on it, and it has like maybe close to 4 now, and I'm like, there are other things that other people are saying that are way more sensationalized versus this, and I'm like, this is not a, and I don't think like, unless you
gotta reach them.
Unless you specifically reached out to his people and his people were like, oh yeah, this is targeted at the MCU, then sure, I'll believe it then. But I'm like, why are you pushing a narrative that like Marvel's been paying this guy for north of 40 to 50 years? He still does the voice work for the Hulk in the MCU. Why would he bite the hand that feeds him? Or he did. I know he's been involved. Like
I know he was the voice in Incredible Hulk. I'm not sure if they stopped.
I don't think, well, I know clearly he didn't do the mocap for like Endgame or anything, but it's still just like, it's one of those things that bothers me to where it's like, I understand the need to like talk about it, but it could have just been like, I don't understand why these articles become targeted and why they're just not an open-ended question. And you go through it and be like, hey, this is where it was then. This is where we are now. Is he like saying he's better than the MCU? And you kind of leave it up to the to the reader, as opposed to being like, no, this is clearly him railing against that. And I'm like, well, I don't believe you.
Like, we're both sports fans. What is ESPN become nowadays? It's just nothing but hot takes.
Oh yeah.
Like imagine this in that setting where it's just like, someone's like, so Lou Ferrigno said this about the MCU. Do you disagree, or is he just being bitter? Hot take.
Speaking of hot takes, next topic. So even though we are only, I don't even know, for a month in to Indiana Jones 5 shooting. The only reason I didn't put this in the titles because it would have been like the 3rd episode in a row of like Indy 5 news, and I'm like, we'll get to it, but it's like, or I would have put like something about James Mangold. So people basically jumped online after literally maybe 10 set photos come
pictures,
out. Yeah, like nothing big. You got Harrison Ford, you got Toby Jones, correct?
Mm-hmm. You got a Nazi train.
Yeah. Literal still photos, and you can tell these were sanctioned releases. Like they weren't paparazzi with like,
right. These were the on-set promo photos that they want us to see, so people can get excited for a 5th Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah, and basically
some would call it a 4th Indiana Jones movie, but I mean,
some would say. Well, I think you should probably let these sleeping dogs lie, because you're gonna get tired and you're gonna waste a lot of breath trying to claim that it's only number 4, because it's gonna come up a lot, and we're about
not in here.
We're about a year away from release date, so it damn sure is. But so he basically Mangold jumped on Twitter and just kind of starting defending himself, where it's like, I found the tweets of his replying, and then he has one like ultimate one at the end. And like, just to go through them real quick, like Mangold says, and I don't know the context of all of them, but like to paraphrase some of them, he says, congrats on the Batman statue and the jar of corks. So how about you let me finish my film and then bitch all you want about it in front of your final bricks lit by a fancy bounce light, and maybe don't call opinion news. And for anyone that knows anything, he's like, I guess that one's really doesn't make sense without a context. And then characters age just like people, and it's spelled Indy. So let me get this right, Brian. You can spurg about me, but I'm supposed to say silent while you do it and bait clicks because Lucasfilm, and not random timelines, a saved timeline of the dude spurging about my film. So he literally, like, he's going specifically to specific people talking about this. And then
because I know one of them was like, someone was like comparing him to Rian Johnson, like ruining Luke Skywalker.
And to get to the very end of what he said is somebody does go right to him, and he says, respect to you, sir, and this was Salty Warpig was their little name, but their actual @ is like Jarhead996. Respect to you, sir, for engaging with your audience, even if feathers were ruffled and heated words were exchanged. This fandom has become jaded due to so many of their beloved franchises being destroyed by politics or ideology. We wish Hollywood had that timeless magic again. And Mangold replies and he says, maybe, just maybe, I won't let you down. I cherish old Hollywood pictures. Give me a little air to make the film, then make your judgments, okay? And that tweet should be evergreen and shellacked and be forced. That should be forced to be a fucking header for every single YouTube podcast, anything ever.
I think if you buy a movie ticket, that should be printed on the back of the stub.
You should, if you review movies or you talk about movies in any space, you should have that tattooed backwards on your forehead. So every time you look in the mirror, you realize you can't judge the movie until you see it. So
how many times have we discussed that on here? And it's just like we get it. Like, I understand the industry. You got to get those clicks. You got to get that reaction. So people are, of course, going to post, a couple pictures with no context and be like, is Indiana Jones set in an alternate timeline? Is James Mangold destroying your childhood? Blah, 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 blah.
It's also getting to the point where it's like we've dabbled. We've been doing this for so long. We've dabbled in so many different types and different takes and different ways to view these things. And right. I think we've settled pretty cleanly on that. Like, you have to wait and see, but then also
it's the trailer. The first trailer will tell you what you need to know.
At least a little bit, because we've been burned because the final trailer for Independence Day Resurgence made it look good.
Well, I'm not saying that. Like, remember when everyone lost their mind for Suicide Squad when they included Queen in it? Like, I get that, but it's just one of those things. We don't really know what's happening because you can't judge a movie based on one shot of Harrison Ford standing next to somebody. Can't say, "Oh, this is what this whole movie's going to be." You could speculate all you want, but you can't say, "Well, this is totally ruining this for me. I'm out."
I think that's the issue too, where it's like it's a
hot take.
That's not a hot take. The hot take
hot takes is literally people out there going, James Mangold's going to ruin Indiana Jones more than Steven Spielberg did when he nuked the fridge.
So the hot take that I'm going to say is, like, if you don't like something, it's okay not to tell everyone. Like, that's where we've gone through this before, where we've fostered negativity here on our show before, and it's one of those things we're trying to get away from because it exists so much in this space, and it's really not necessary. We can literally say I didn't like it and move on, and like Eric can say I did, and we can discuss a little bit back and forth, but it can be respectful. I think that's
what I'm hearing is we're not gonna have a 20-minute review of Cats again where we just cry.
So I stand by that review because of the madness that it led us to, both in viewing and in review form. If you're interested, it's on the Ramble On. It's still up on the Ramble On one, and it's a 20-minute. It's the longest review we've ever done, and a video review. But it shows you the madness that I still think there's going to be changes happening to the PJCN network. But I'm still that's going to be something I'm going to push for because certain members of this channel haven't seen it, and I will insist that it be and you can be there as a moderator, but I want it to be a substance friendly viewing, to put it lightly, because I want to view it like
so
that.
I'm the control subject of this. Everyone else is doing their thing. I'm the sober one.
But the funny thing is, you'd be reacting because I remember so many things in the theater. There was a genuine, and this is one of my favorite things. I think I say it in the review, but there was a point where we're watching in the theater, and Eric's sitting right next to me, and we're watching the movie, and I swear to God, this wasn't intentional, but something happens on the screen, and I went,
right. We both started laughing
because it wasn't supposed to be funny, but it really was. I don't want to. But it's just that, and that's the thing is, like, we should definitely give Mangold a chance. He has earned his chance. He is a very good director, and he's done some great movies over the past, like,
Wolverine movies.
Yeah, like genuinely good.
He took First Class, which was a hot mess. I think universally we all can agree. Not First Class. X-Men Origins.
Origins, yeah, that was Gavin O'Connor, and then he did the Wolverine.
Then he took over with the Wolverine, which I was like, oh, this is a step in the right improvement. And then he gave us Logan.
And then Logan, which you can argue is one of the best comic book movies ever made.
Easily argue. And you could still cry at the end of it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, that movie was rough.
It's one of those things where it's like, that's something that our fandom needs. It's mutual respect. And that's, I think, one thing that everyone loses, especially with the day and age of the internet. And when we're screaming into our tiny little corner of the void, is you things can get back to people, especially negative things. Like, we can sit here and we can spread positivity all we want, but the odds of it getting to somebody who's like actually in charge of that, it's probably a lot lower. But if you're going to be spouting vitriol, you're going to be no news. There's no news like bad news. So if you're going to be that negative, then it's just you're not helping anything. And if you feel the need to be that negative, like, try some introspection, try some perspective. Like, why, if this is hurting your life personally, there's other conversations you need to be having, because these are movies, this is entertainment, it's some people's businesses or jobs, but there are also people, they're doing it. Like, my wife likes to tell me, and like we'll talk about movies like freely, like not in a public forum, and be like, this is a bad movie, it's fun to watch, but it's bad. And she's like, yeah, but there are people that worked on it and really like it. And I'm like, you're right, there could be a few people who like, this is a super creative endeavor, but there could be a lot of people who this is just a job for. So we like to boil everything down online to black and white. It's this or that. And that's not the truth. And that's pretty much what we have to unlearn as a society over the last decade or so.
Well, I think you made a really good point years ago during one of our Ramble On Rumbles, when, we were talking about Oscar snubs, and our good friend Mary was like, oh, there's no such thing as all art is, these people tried and created. And then you're like, look, I've done some bad movies. Like, I've done movies that should not be considered Oscar buzz, but I had fun making them. That's the point. Some of these movies aren't going to be great. Like, Money Plane is my new guilty pleasure movie.
I need to watch it. I haven't watched it yet.
It is god awful, but damn it, I respect the hell out of it. Kelsey Grammer.
You want to bet on a dude fucking an alligator?
Money Plane.
Money Plane. You and Lon Harris would get. He loves that movie too, and they did an honest trailer for it.
I know. I was so happy for it, and they also included a pitch meeting. It's everything I needed for that movie.
Mike asked, Mike, we covered this a little bit earlier, if we'd seen Luca, and there's a ridiculous Pixar discourse going around Luca. So
I could take the lead on this one.
Go for it.
Mike, because I'm guessing you weren't here earlier, we did mention Luca. I mentioned I liked it. I recommend it fully. But the ridiculous discord is there's literally an AV Club article where the title says, "Why doesn't Pixar make good movies anymore?" Which is ridiculous, because now I get it. WALL-E, Incredibles, Toy Story 3, the Oscar nominated films they've made. Not everything's going to be up to that, and that's okay. Like, I get if you want to hold them to these high standards, but at the same time, enjoy the work that they give you. Like,
it's tying into the last story really nicely.
Yep, because Luca, I really liked it. Like, I saw the Discord for it. I don't get it. I think, like I said, it's their love story for Italy. It's a love story of the summers that the creators had when they were kids, where you actually got to be kids, go out on adventures and have fun. But, like, does it reach the emotional highs of, like, Toy Story 3 or Toy Story 2, some of the, quote unquote greats? No, but that's okay. It doesn't have to. It has to tell its story, and it tells that story well. It's not like, everyone can dog on the Cars 2 and 3 movies. I would not object with that. But just to say, well, it's not as good as what they used to be. Things change. Like, I mean, that's no different than like someone from, saying, well, movies aren't as good as they used to be back in the 60s or 70s or 80s. You're looking at history in a nutshell. You're looking at the good stuff. There was bad stuff too in the past, but with Pixar, their worst is still better than most studios' best.
That's true. And I didn't even know there was a Discord around it. Yes, lay the smackdown is what that was.
Yeah, no, it's just like I didn't even click on the article because I didn't want to give it the pleasure of my click.
Yeah, I get that too, and that goes back to the no news like bad news, and just wanting those clicks and fostering negativity.
Well, because like someone mentioned, it's like like Blumhouse, they put out good films, but they've also put out Fantasy Island. You didn't hear people going, why come Blumhouse doesn't make good movies anymore?
I really wish that there were more. Honestly, I want more Blumhouse Studios or BH Tilt. Like their
A24
production model, A24. A24, I feel like they buy more movies that are already done. I don't know how many A24 productions like start with A24 and end with A24, but that's, neither
Well, I
here
mean,
nor there.
but that's another mid-level.
Yeah, mid or like even less or more like indie. Like I had it and I lost it. There are a few other really, really good ones, but I wish that, because a lot of mid-budget stuff goes straight to streaming now, which is fine as well.
Mhm.
So let's do, I'm looking at my notes. What do I want to go to? We'll go to casting. And to wrap up a little bit, I think this will be the last little bit of MCU stuff. So just a little bit of She-Hulk news, because we didn't get to cover this. We still know
we talked about her cousin Lou. Let's talk about her.
Lou
Ferrigno.
Sure. In like the actor, sure. We know that Tatiana Maslany is going to be Jennifer Walters, is going to be She-Hulk. But then a couple weeks ago, they announced that Jamila Jamil is going to be the supervillain Tatiana and playing opposite her. And I'm just like, yes, give her all the things. She was so good on The Good Place. Like, this is just going to be like 2-3 minutes of us going, yes. Going, yeah. Especially like, given the care that's like, and we haven't talked about this yet, like I just got like Loki being released on Wednesday kind of fucks up my schedule, only because Wednesday's normally my day off with my wife together. So like we're hanging out Tuesday night when it's dropped, and then we hang out all day Wednesday, and it's like, oh, that's right, now it's Wednesday evening and it's been out for almost 24 hours. I need to watch it. But like the time and care that they're putting into all of these shows, like from WandaVision to Falcon and Winter Soldier to now Loki, like I'm so excited. Like I have a lot of faith in them as a studio at this point.
Well, I've been echoing this for a while now. The MCU has earned the benefit of the doubt. Until they actually fail at something, we can just assume it's going to work and we're going to enjoy it. And
it's going to work and we're going to enjoy it, even if it isn't like, and they've found ways to make their lesser films even better. Like going back to watch Thor 2 has more weight after Infinity War and Endgame.
Because he put so much into rehabbing it.
Yeah. So it's like, why is this? Oh, that's why this is significant, because it's an Infinity Stone. So it's interesting to see just how it all plays out. Like Feige, as the dump trucks of money that Disney and Marvel are giving him, it's paying off in spades.
Oh yeah,
because he's wound up being the showrunner of at this point, what, $100 billion entity. I'm sure with like box office and like toy returns and everything, it's got to be worth at least
merchandising.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, since there's no water cooler this week, Dan, guys, Pajunkin's on a little hiatus, and we kind of taken over the place.
Well, it was one of those things where it was like there's a hiatus, and we went, oh, all right. Well, we do our own thing anyway, so we're gonna do our own thing.
That's right. So let's talk Loki.
Sure.
Let's do a little water cooler chat.
Loki spoilers.
So Loki spoilers.
I guess I should put it here too. We'll do some Loki spoilers. Loki spoilers. Oh, there we go. So now it's in the chat. I don't know if you're listening audio. I don't know. Skip for 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, give us 5 minutes.
So we're 2 episodes in. You talked the first episode, I'm imagining, and I've just seen the second one. It's
so good.
It's really curious, and it's a pretty big reveal at the end. Do you know who it is, or is it theories? Or
there's 2 theories. There's obviously she is a female Loki, which female Loki does exist. But the other theory that's gaining steam, and I'm starting to agree to it, especially after my second viewing, is that she's actually a character called the Enchantress.
Okay.
Especially with how her powers work, the way she was just clearly enchanting. Not that one. Wavy level blue guy.
The wacky wavy flayed. Oh damn it! Hold on, I can get this. The wacky wavy inflatable arm flailing tube man.
That's right. Hula hooping. But no, it's Marvel's Enchantress.
Gotcha.
Who is part of Asgard mythology or that whole thing. So that to me also makes sense.
Okay.
But here's the thing. It's not like WandaVision where like a lot of that show was mystery boxing. Because they were playing the elements of television. And we didn't know literally, because what genre are they going to go to? What are they going to do next? We didn't know that. With Loki, at least it's one self-contained mystery, but they're doing a good job just peeling back things.
I'm having, the longer I'm watching, the more theories that I have, and like the thing that snuck into my brain in this
Everything's
episode,
Mephisto.
it was Mephisto all along. No, it was that they're fucking, like, not only is it the TVA, but I'm wondering if they're going to be doing like layers of time to where we get to some of those later episodes and like Loki may be taking a different form, and it's like they'll be doubling back on it and like seeing some of this from a different character's angle. And I was like, oh man, that would be gnarly.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, they're totally going to be playing with time, and I love that because also, again, you introduce the concept of variant Loki, including a Loki that looks like he won the Tour de France.
Oh, some of them, one that looked like the Hulk.
Yeah, there's Hulk Loki. So I mean, they're planning this again. You don't do something like that without it having a payoff later.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. I'm imagining there will be multiple Lokis, at least played by Tom Hiddleston at some point in this series. I'm thinking
the finale,
maybe the finale. I think it might be
like a council of Lokis.
Council. That's who the timekeepers are. They're a council of Lokis.
No, I already have a theory about who one of them is, and I already said it. Had they confirmed? No, not yet.
Okay.
I agree with you, Mike. I think he is like the OG comics Loki, like when they first introduced him in the 60s.
Mike asked if they've confirmed who Richard E. Grant is playing, and Mike says he feels like it might be an older Loki for you audio listeners. So yeah, I mean, I love the style, the vibe, the feel. I'm happy Owen Wilson is absolutely nailing this. He's so perfect for Mobius.
He's so good.
Especially like even in the second episode, he's getting a little bit more of an arc to where it's like at first he's very plucky, he seems bright-eyed, but then it's like even by the second episode, and that's another reason why my brain went to a little bit of time traveling, is because he's like, time passes differently here. And like you can tell in the second episode, he's already getting visibly annoyed with Loki that things aren't working out. So it's like, I'm wondering how, because I bet you anything, there's going to be, if not time shifting or traveling, there are going to be some big ripples by the end of this. So I'm wondering if Loki is what fractures, and then it goes into Multiverse of Madness, and then we go into Spider-Man Far From Home. So, because it's going to be interesting seeing all the properties we're getting now. Like, clearly Black Widow isn't going to have much to do with this as far as timeline goes, but we are getting Eternals. We are getting Spider-Man by the end of the year. So there's going to be a lot of stuff going on here in the next few months.
This series is very interesting. I love as we call it here, the Bajunkin, the Stone. The style and tone.
Style and tone. The stone.
Because it feels like a 1970s sci-fi series, like British 1970s.
Like basically, if
like
you
old school Doctor Who,
or if you took the aesthetic of Men in Black, but then you turned the sepia way up, and you like gave it a bit bigger budget to where it was like that was all crisp and clean, and that looked very 90s, but you could tell it was a very heavy 70s and 60s influence. Because that's kind of how the sets looked. So yeah, okay, we'll say that sounds good.
Yep, Loki spoilers over.
More Loki spoilers. Typing in the chats. Okay.
Also, I agree with you, Mike. I would just spend a full hour just watching Mobius and Loki sitting down, having a Josta together. Yeah,
and it was a great scene of them sitting down and debating meal and philosophy, which is always an interesting thing to talk about and debate. Let's keep with casting for now, because we're getting through a lot of these things. I have a couple of short things to go through. We'll do one fun one, then we'll get to mine. Kevin Bacon is going to be in the Toxic Avenger reboot, like
as the villain,
the villain role, where Peter Dinklage is the hero. And Jacob
Elijah Wood's in it now.
Jacob Tremblay's task. I wouldn't be surprised if he was producing. I know he's doing a lot of producing lately, and they would definitely list it in the article that I found. But it's being directed by, we talked about it, and it was being directed by Macon Blair, who's acted in a lot of things, where he was in Blue Ruin, he was in Green Room, and we talked about him recently.
Yep.
I know we have. I don't remember what we were discussing, but
yeah, basically, I did just confirm Elijah Wood is in the Toxic Avenger reboot.
Nice. Okay. So he's basically making his work with the guys who have done Green Room and Blue Ruin. He's worked with that director, and then he's directing Toxic Avenger, and he also wrote it. So it's exciting. Like, I like that guy as a creative as well. So but yeah, and Kevin Bacon, I'm happy he gets to be the villain. I think this could be a lot of fun as a movie.
He is really good in villain roles. Like, I don't think he gets enough credit.
I need to watch Cop Car. I really want to see him do that.
Super, written and directed by James Gunn. He's great as the villain in that. And let's not forget his work in X-Men First Class.
Mm-hmm.
Sebastian Shaw. Like, when I first heard it, I was like, he doesn't strike me as a Sebastian Shaw type. And then I was like, never mind.
You're like, I buy it.
You know what? I stand corrected.
I really like, there was a random, like one of those early, I think it might have been an early James Wan death sentence, which was kind of like Taken around the same time, where it was like his son gets murdered and then he goes on a rampage. The Punisher.
Yeah.
Yep. I really enjoyed that movie as a nice little revenge flick. So you see
and John Goodman team up.
He taps into the mania really well. Yeah. So good for Kevin Bacon. Hop around to, I think that's it for those casting. So I am in talks for John Wick 4, but who they have also cast, I'm not really in talks. That would be fucking dream of my life. Donnie Yen and Hiro.
It's a dream of mine to be killed by John Wick.
Donnie Yen and then Hiro Yuki Sanada. If I say things slow, I can say it. Hiro Yuki Sanada. There we go. So those two are confirmed to be in John Wick 4, and you also have It star Bill Skarsgård, who played Pennywise, and he is in talks to join everyone else who we've already talked about. And it's just like, yeah, well, how did these movies? I'm not mad that we're getting the John Wick-averse, kind of like Fast and the Furious verse, like. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so as long as Keanu can clearly transition into, like I just said, Taken and do Liam Neeson and be doing old school badass stuff, except he's actually doing most of his work.
And also, I don't think, he's not taking like anything that's old man kicks ass. He's dedicated himself to this character of John Wick, and what I like about it is they're being smart with the casting and casting people like Donnie Yen, the other gentleman whose name I will horribly mispronounce, but
just Mr. Sonata.
Mr. Sonata, there we go, Mr. Sonata, who was great as Scorpion
in Mortal Kombat. One of the best parts of the movie.
First 7 minutes. So you get to add that to John Wick?
First 7 minutes and the last 20.
Yeah. Or he was also good in Army of the Dead.
Yeah. In a little scene that he was in. He's only in like 2 scenes, but
he's good in them.
It's never a bad idea to add talented people,
but it's also not ever a bad idea to add Donnie Yen to any action movie, because
no,
I'm not sure if you watched Ip Man. He's great in those, but I mean, just his sequence, Rogue One, just the sequence of him with beating up all those stormtroopers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's what I wake up to in the morning. Like, I don't need coffee. I just open up YouTube. I just watch Donnie Yen beat up stormtroopers.
Done. No coffee necessary. Well, now I've said, I think,
ready for a full day.
Yeah. So I think we'll do 2 more stories. We're done with casting then. And then we'll do 2 last things because I don't want to end on this note. But it has been announced that Rob Zombie will officially be directing The Munsters. Okay. That's where the new old film thing came from in the title. And it's one of those things where it's like, how many Rob Zombie movies have you watched?
I've watched 2, his Halloweens.
So 2?
Yeah.
Okay. So he has, I think, is it 4 big releases? The Halloweens, Devil's Rejects, House of a Thousand Corpses. Is that roughly? I could look it up if you're.
I know he's got. Because I remember at one point he was in talks to do a Crow remake.
Oh, okay. Let's see. As far as directing goes, I already have it up. He did a lot of soundtracks. Oh, he's directed a lot. So he's directed his own music videos, which is pretty interesting. He did direct one of the trailers in Grindhouse, and then it was House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, Halloween 1 and 2, and he's done some TV. He directed an episode of CSI Miami. Okay, Lords of Salem was another new one. I remember when that came out. a movie called 31. A Rob Zombie film. It sounds like another one of his.
3 from Hell. Mm-hmm.
Yep, and 3 from Hell, and then the Monsters reboot. So you're looking at 5 or 6 movies. I know people who will literally stand by Rob Zombie as a director. I can't officially weigh in because I haven't ever sat through one of them totally. It's interesting. Did he want Addams Family, or was that just like something that my brain put together? Because it seems
I think
like
that's something you just put in your head.
Okay. So it seems interesting to me because it doesn't seem like a vibe. Like Monsters was pretty family friendly,
right?
So
well, and the other thing is the best remake of the Monsters was a 2012 pilot that was done by Brian Fuller called Mockingbird Lane.
Okay.
It was a pilot and it was literally the best, but NBC said no. We want a season of Community without Dan Harmon instead.
Don't bring up things that make me sad.
I mean, it's just one of those properties where like I don't know what Rob Zombie's going to do with it. I mean, you can imagine just
in the
like
same
a House
breath,
of 1,000 Corpses, or
I was going to say in the same breath as that Mangold conversation we have earlier, we need to be like waiting for things to see.
Right. Again, maybe, who knows? Maybe Rob Zombie's going to direct a PG, family-friendly Monsters movie.
Stranger things have happened.
Honestly, I would love to see him try.
Yeah, that could be a lot of fun.
Now, let's put that out there. And just so Rob goes, in the dedication at the end of the credits, said, fuck you, Eric Muller. You said I couldn't do it.
I mean, sometimes
thanks,
people can surprise you. The last little bit of news I'm just going to throw in here to tag on at the very end is because I thought it was funny, where the Roku CEO has come out and said, specifically on their acquisition of the bulk of Quibi's library, to be honest, we just got a good deal. We were looking for shows that work well with the AVOD business model, which means advertising video on demand. And he also basically came out and said that they weren't going to be trying to be Netflix or Disney, but they're going to be making their own content as well, but not pushing for like holy shit streaming services. You know what I mean? So yeah, I just thought that was kind of interesting, kind of funny.
Do you have a Roku?
Yes.
Okay, so do I. Because for the longest time, because like when I'm going to go to like, I don't know, Apple, so I can watch Ted Lasso.
Mm-hmm.
I always see the ads for like, hey, we have this original Roku show. And I'm like, that's a Quibi show.
Yep.
I'm not going to watch it because I'm going to watch Ted Lasso instead.
But they always do that where it was like, even like something like Cobra Kai now says a Netflix original, even though it started on YouTube.
Yeah,
so
that's
basically,
right. I pay for YouTube Red. Yeah, that's how I go back with that so I can watch Cobra Kai. I'm an OG Cobra Kai. I'm ride or die with Cobra Kai.
I literally, I had a comment earlier today where I was talking about VHSs and how I was doing this on Twitter and how my dad used to either tape things off of network TV or he would like have a dual VCR setup and he would just make copies from Blockbuster. So
yes.
you can't be that ride or die unless you remember when those things happened.
I do remember those things happening. We never could, because apparently when I was a kid, I used to like put popsicle sticks inside the VHS player.
For what purpose?
I don't know. I was like 3.
That's really funny. Like that's just how my dad was. He even had he would do that with DVDs at some point. Like he made sure he had a DVD recorder that had a hard drive in it, and it was, I don't know what he was trying to accomplish. I don't even think he watched any of this stuff back. I know for the movies it was for us as kids, but like why he recorded like other things, he would record things off PBS. Like I think that's just dads have to have their own kind of niche where you don't understand what they're doing.
Hey, maybe he had a secret black market for selling bootleg copies of PBS Masterpiece Theater.
I mean, maybe. I don't think.
Maybe he donated them to the public library.
Yeah, I do remember he recorded a PBS showing a Phantom of the Opera at one point. I think I got rid of it. I know it was in my old house. I don't think it made the trip.
Did it make it out in LA?
No, I don't think so. Yeah. Anything else? Anything we missed? Anything you want to throw out there?
Yeah, I think we covered it all and then some.
We did cover it all, and especially 30 minutes dedicated to which heroes would and would not. That's a show, right? That's our show in a nutshell. That's what we do. We discuss what
maybe
you
one of
want
these
to
days
hear.
I'll do a thread on the villains. Who knows?
Well, it would just be you going yes, 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 yes.
I don't know. Thanos is definitely a no.
Oh yeah, Thanos is a no. Thanos would only get halfway and stop.
Yeah, he wouldn't even bother.
He wouldn't even bother. Snap his fingers and be done with it.
You change reality.
Yeah.
She wouldn't want it anymore.
Oh, on that note, I think we're just about done. That seems like a good place to end this ramble on. Thank you very much for checking us out. We do have a lot of other lovely, lovely shows on the Pajukan Network that feel free to check out. Click through all those.
Yeah.
Things will be changing. We'll have more announcements about that later because honestly, we don't really know about them, but we'll still be here doing our thing. So you can come visit us.
And we'll be here to fully support the Pajunkin.
It's exactly what we do. Across the internet over there, Clever Eric Muller.
And across the internet over there, Handsome Dan and
I. Do all the fun things, like, comment, subscribe, share, and we will see you next time.
Bye, kids. Anchors away.